Perhaps you're looking to start YouTube, but you're not sure what to make content about. Or maybe you've got an idea, but you're not sure if it's going to work. Or you're already creating content, but you're not sure if that niche is right for you in the long term. In this video, we're going to run through some common mistakes that people make when picking their niche for their YouTube channel and the system that I used to come up with some niches for myself. So let's take a look at the common mistakes that a lot of people make when they first pick what content to make on their very first YouTube channel. I've got my iPad here today, so we'll have a look at this. So there's 4 big mistakes that I see a lot of people make when they first start a YouTube channel. The first one is they're just way too broad in what kind of content they make. They make just gaming content, which they think appeals to so many people, but ultimately ends up appealing to no one. And that's a really difficult thing to get right. The next one is they chase the latest trends. I'm sure we all saw the NFT AI hype skyrocket. A lot of people would have started channels around this kind of content and then just given up because it's not really their interest. They were just trying to chase the latest trend. So don't fall for that one. The next one is fairly similar. It's just chasing the income. So they see lots of channels in finance and high paying niches and think, I can do that and I can make a hell of a lot of money. But if you're just not interested in that topic, it's never going to work. You're never going to stick with it. So you'll never get the income. The other mistake that I see a lot of people making is they just try and copy and paste a channel that they see that is successful already. The reality is this is really difficult. And YouTube in 2025 and beyond, it's all about your personality. It's about your unique viewpoint and what you have to offer. So just copying and pasting someone else's content, it's just not going to work because it's not authentic and it's not you. So let's take a look at the system that I have used to come up with some ideas for myself. So firstly, what I did was I wrote down some goals as to why I want to start YouTube and what I'm hoping to get out of it. As you can see here, I've got 4 goals. The first one is to just share my journey with you. The second is I want to learn how to absolutely crush YouTube. It's really interesting to me if I can create a new channel and start getting views, subscribers, and really making money straight away. I think that would be a really good skill set to have and something that I could offer as a course, as a mentorship, or as coaching. The third thing is that I want to make money on YouTube. As I've said in other videos, I think it's a great time, and I think YouTube and content creation is such an awesome path towards financial independence and being your own boss. Which obviously leads on to the fourth one, which is to help you and people like me quit their 9-to-5 jobs through content creation on YouTube and other platforms. I really think it's a great opportunity for pretty much anyone to achieve, which is why I want to help you. Diving in a bit more into the system that I use, right? So the first thing I did was I created a note in my phone, and anytime I found something that I was interested in, or something that I knew something about, or something that just kind of piqued my intrigue, I'd write it down in the note. And after a week, I had around 40 or so items in that list. You can see here, obviously, we've got ones related to my profession, coding and stuff, but we've got other ones like the gym and Lego and stuff like that. And of course, we've got some startup and side hustly ones. I then took this list, and the first thing I did was just go through it and just get rid of the ones that I just wasn't interested in, weren't really that kind of intriguing to me, and I just threw them away basically. Also for ones that I found that I am interested in it, but can I see myself doing it for 5 years on YouTube? Probably not. So I just chucked all those away. And that left me with around 10 or so kind of topics that I'm interested in. Either I've got a strong interest in or some expertise in. And you can see here that it's like coding, YouTube, making money, and then like cars and F1. I then asked myself the question, could I really spend 12 hours learning and researching about this topic? And the reason I asked myself this was that if you're going to make content, you have to be able to research. You have to learn from other content makers, from websites, news, blogs, books, etc. So actually having a real genuine interest and wanting to learn about that topic outside of creating content is super, super important. I can't emphasize this enough. You're going to have to learn a lot about these topics. So pick something that you're interested in or you've got a real expertise and are interested in. So for me, you can see here that I kind of got rid of cars and F1 and a bit of the financing and business stuff here. So again, I'm leaning into sort of coding stuff, YouTube itself, as I've done a lot of research and I'm really interested in that topic. And then there's obviously the ones around making money and finance stuff are also interested in mine. And that left me with 4 genuine options that I think I can really make good channels on. The first 2 are coding related. So there's coding itself, coding tutorials. And the second one is system design, which is kind of how systems like YouTube are built from a technical perspective. The next is YouTube itself. And I'm kind of already doing this one, so it's kind of a bit meta, but I'm super interested in it. And even before I decided to quit my job, it was something that I'd kind of been learning about and just was just interested in. Like a lot of the channels that I have on my feed are about how to get good at YouTube. So it was an interest before I even decided to start. And finally, finance. Finance has always been an interest of mine. It's kind of allowed me to quit my job and try these kind of things. So the kind of financial discipline, the FIRE movement, retiring early, all those kind of things are stuff that are on my Reddit feed and again on my YouTube feed. So they really played into the kind of, can I do this for a long time mindset. So the next thing I want to talk about is niching up and niching down. So we've kind of alluded to this a bit in the mistakes that you can make about being way too broad. But it's worth noting because whether you decide to go really specific, which should be niching down, or niching up, which should be like a really general and broad topic, you kind of want to have a strategy and kind of understand where you want to sit in that kind of that level between the two. So if we look at the pros and cons of niching up, well, going broad has a lot of potential. You can reach a huge audience, so it's got a lot of growth potential, right? If you make videos about cooking, there's a lot of people that are interested in cooking, so that's a huge potential audience. There's obviously the flexibility to follow the interests of the audience. If people are suddenly into cooking pizza, you can make pizza videos. If they're into cooking burgers, it's burgers this week. Whereas if you're really specific, you can't really pivot that much. You've also got great monetization options. You can also test different content types. Maybe you try funny cooking videos or really, really technical cooking videos about the science and stuff behind cooking. And of course, if you've gone really broad and really generic, you can pivot within that topic quite a lot. So it makes it quite nice in terms of the flexibility. On the con side, unfortunately, there are some, of course, but it does take longer to build an authority because you're in a big pond and you're a small fish when you go really broad. There's a lot of competition. So you do need a strong differentiator. So either that's your really strong personality, the way you present, maybe you add comedy or graphics or something that makes it interesting to the viewer, that makes them want to watch your content rather than the other 100 cooking tutorials that are out there. And again, you've got to maintain an interest across that whole subject, which can be quite difficult when it's a super broad topic, right? So if we look at some examples of kind of being quite general and niching up, if you think about a topic of like sourdough bread baking, maybe it's something you do at home. Well, you could then go to kind of artisan bread baking, which is a bit more generic. So you can make different types of bread, not just sourdough. You could then end up going to home baking, again, which is super generic, and then home cooking and food science, or just general cooking. That's a really broad change, right? And you can see here that obviously, if you go really broad, your audience improves because not everyone's going to be interested in just sourdough bread, but a lot of people are interested in cooking. Equally, from a gaming point of view, you can do Minecraft redstone tutorials. I had to Google a specific Minecraft thing, but that is obviously one of them. You could then go to like Minecraft building and then general gaming tutorials and then just general gaming and entertainment. But again, with that kind of thing, there's so much competition. So you have to really stand out and have a real differentiator, which to be honest is going to be your personality or your unique viewpoint. So it's not impossible, but it will take longer than a more specific niche. And if we look at how people niche down and the kind of pros and cons behind niching down, well, you can become the go-to expert in a specific field quite quickly if you do niche down. Obviously, there's going to be less people in that particular niche because it's more specific. It's obviously easier to rank the keywords, to get to appear in like the searches and the suggested videos in topics that are way more specific because there's just less pool of content out there for that niche. And obviously, when you go really niche, you end up building a community around that niche because a lot of people are so interested in that and it's just a shared passion for you. The cons to this are kind of the inverse of the pros, right? Much smaller audience, which means it's going to be much more difficult to grow beyond your kind of core audience. It's not generally appealing, right? And you can hit this content ceiling where you've kind of made all the videos you can make about a really specific topic, like authentic ramen recipes, right? There's not going to be that many of them, so you may just kind of hit this endpoint where you've done all the content. That's not to say you can get creative, of course, and expand out, but it becomes a bit more difficult. It is also harder to expand, right? Like I said, if you've gone really, really niche, then your audience might not want you to go a bit more general. And you might end up alienating your kind of core audience and just not finding that more general audience. There's obviously limited monetization opportunities from sponsorships and stuff. But having said that, there are lots of monetization options if you do niche down. So I wouldn't discount it just for kind of a lack of sponsorship. And of course, you might outgrow the niche. We all change and evolve. So maybe in 5 years, you kind of have gone from authentic recipes to something more general, but you haven't been able to take the channel with you, which might be quite frustrating. So if we look at a couple of examples here, kind of gave you a hint to one earlier, but obviously you could go from a really broad topic here. You can decide, well, I'm really into cooking and I want to go to like Asian cuisine because it's my favorite cuisine, and then like traditional Japanese cooking. And then you decide actually ramen is a really cool topic and I really love making and cooking ramen. So maybe I'll do like authentic ramen recipe preservation. And maybe you're into the history as well. So you can do that kind of history and cooking side of things. So you can see there that you can take a really generic interest and narrow it down and niche down quite easily. Another example would be kind of a personal finance interest. So maybe you're just interested in personal finance and then you kind of think, oh, I'm kind of into real estate and property investing. And then from that you go, oh, you know what, I can flip houses. I've done that before. So you start making content about house flipping. And then from that you find that actually there's this really interesting kind of niche that exists out there of kind of flipping historic homes in small towns. Obviously, you're probably going to need a lot of money for that one, but it's an interesting topic, right? So now let's move on to how you can be successful in your niche, and then we'll wrap up the video with some high potential niches that I can think of. So to be really successful in YouTube in 2025, as I've said, it's kind of all about your personality, your unique viewpoint, and your journey. So you kind of have to end up creating your own space on YouTube. There's going to be people that have created content in the same topic as you, but you and your viewpoint are going to make you stand out. And in terms of standing out, I kind of think of two ways that you can do this. The first is the fresh angle way, right? So this is like new perspective on common topics. So an example here might be car reviews, right? There's a million car review channels out there. But maybe you do car reviews through the eyes of an engineer, right? It's a new viewpoint on an existing topic. Could be a good one. Of course, you've got unique personal experiences. Maybe it's traveling as a professional chef and exploring local markets. That could be super interesting, right? You've got the cooking niche, you've got a lot of viewers from that, and then you're narrowing it down and giving it a fresh new look. Other examples could be authentic personality integration. So maybe if you're into gaming and psychology, you could do like a therapist view of player psychology, right? That might be really interesting. Maybe you're not a pro gamer, but you can look at gamers' content and the way they play and analyze that. Could be a cool viewpoint. And of course, finally, on the fresh angle side of things, there are cross-discipline kind of connections that you can make here. So the good example here would be like fitness content. Maybe you want to do the psychology of habit formation in fitness. Obviously, there's going to be people that have done videos about fitness, people that have done videos about psychology and habits, but has anyone combined them and given that viewpoint? Maybe, maybe not. Could be something you're interested in. The other way that I see people standing out would be the standout way of doing it. Kind of a bit, continuation there. From this aspect, you can give your personal story, which really shows your personality. So you might be a former banker that is kind of teaching financial literacy through their personal mistakes and the journey that they've been on. Equally, you've got things like your unique expertise, novel topic combinations. Again, maybe you are a philosopher and gamer, so you could explore existential questions through gaming. Could be an interesting one, right? And equally, there's the fresh approach to new topics. So breaking down complex engineering or architecture topics through Lego. In terms of creating your own space and standing out, as I said, it's really about your personality, your unique journey, and the insights that you have to offer. So don't just copy and paste, make it about your audience. And finally, let's wrap up with some high potential niches that I've thought of. So again here, there's kind of three kind of areas that I thought of that are quite interesting that could be a potential option. So there's first the inaccessible situations, and this is obviously kind of narrowing it down to a really, really small subset of people that can do these, but are good examples of potential options. If you have a rare profession, right? Maybe you are a high-end watch repair specialist. That's going to be really interesting to a really, really broad subset of people that are into watches, that are into kind of antique restoration, into the mechanics of that kind of thing. And obviously, only a small subset of people can actually offer that content because you have to be a high-end watch repairer. Equally, if you live in a really remote location, maybe that's a really interesting niche to make content about. Or maybe you've got a really unique life experience. So maybe you've been living as a digital nomad. That could offer really unique input into some content. The other option is kind of making the ordinary extraordinary. I'm sure we've all seen YouTube videos where people take something that's quite boring and explain it and examine it in a really interesting way. And that makes great content. So some examples here that potentially could be an option: taking a common topic and giving it a unique angle. Maybe you transform your regular chores of cleaning the house into a chemistry lesson and talk about all the chemicals and stuff that you're using. Or maybe you take a everyday activity and kind of really dive into it from a deep analytical point of view. And you examine the kind of economics of fast food. Maybe you're in the McDonald's drive-through and you've got your camera and you're talking about the economics of the drive-through and the position of the restaurant. Or maybe you just want to make something that's really simple and make a fascinating video about this. So again, the example here could be the design of everyday objects and how it evolves over time. Like, I can think of an example here of the iron, right? It used to be just a block of iron, you'd heat it up in the fire. Now you've got these fancy steam irons. Who knows where it's going next? And I'm sure there's tons of content for that kind of thing. And finally, the experience-based niche, which I think probably a lot of people are going to fall into. I think I fall into this one as well, where I've got a lot of professional experience and I'm kind of giving that context and educating on that topic with software engineering. But there's also some interesting ways that you could play this. So you might be, for example, a forensic accountant. So maybe you can examine TV shows and how they do forensic accounting in TV shows and call it out or say this is good, that kind of topic. I know nothing about that and I would find it quite interesting. Equally, there's the personal transformation and the journeys that people go on. So I've gone on one of these journeys from being like a self-taught software engineer to a software engineer with over 10 years experience working in tons of companies to now quitting my job, right? That's quite an interesting kind of journey and I can share and talk about that with people. And if you look at the software engineering side of that, that's actually really compelling. Like, I taught myself how to code, I ended up getting a job, ended up becoming a senior software engineer and having a really successful career. And finally, there's this kind of rare combination of knowledge, right? Maybe you're a lawyer by day and a magician by night. So maybe you can, you know, talk about the law and do magic at the same time, or some other weird combination. It doesn't really matter what it is. The key here is that, one, you're interested in it. Two, you think you can do it for a long time. Three, you've got a unique insight and personality to offer in this content. And finally, that you just start and you just make content. Ultimately, the content you make at the start probably isn't going to be the best content ever, but ultimately, no one cares. Just make something, try it out, give it a go. You may love it, and you may find that this is the thing you want to do for the next few years. And you might find that actually it leads to a super successful career. So hopefully this has been useful. Hopefully you now kind of understand a bit more about how to find a niche on YouTube and the strategy that I use to do that. I'm actually going to offer you something here for the first 10 people that want. You can join my Discord, the link's in the description below. And if you're struggling to find a niche, let me know, send me a message, and we can jump on a call and have a chat about finding a niche for yourself. If not, feel free to join the Discord for a like-minded community that are looking to quit their 9-to-5 jobs and become their own boss.